totally agree. Now let's get to the draft. Now, let's talk about the obvious crazy pick, Jalen Hurts to the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to go first on this. Now, I don't know if I'm wrong here, but I think the Eagles fans had a lot of pushback with that pick. And I think I'm on an island. I like the Jalen Hurts pick. And I will tell you why I like the Jalen Hurts pick. Okay, first of all, the Eagles need a backup quarterback. Okay, I think that you can kind of agree with that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you got a backup quarterback. Now, personally, as far as how I felt about Jalen Hurts as a prospect, I felt that he was right behind Jacob Eason. I felt Jacob Eason was the fifth best quarterback in this draft, and Jalen Hurts was right behind him. And you could say, well, we maybe could have got Jalen Hurts in a later round, and maybe that would have been the case. But when you're talking about quarterbacks, if you want a guy, a specific person, and Jalen Hurts provides a specific skill set to the Eagles, you can't wait around for that guy. We saw last year, Daniel Jones. People said that Dave Gettleman reached for him at number 6. He probably did, but there were some other teams that were kind of interested. Miami, Denver, Washington even. Jay Gruden actually wanted to draft him, okay? So when you're talking about quarterbacks, you have to go get your guys. That's one thing. Also, I think Jalen Hurts is going to contribute to the Philadelphia Eagles offense next year. And I think that Howie Roseman realized, okay, we need a backup quarterback because Carson Wentz, whether you want to slice or not, in the playoffs, he's been there once and gotten hurt. In the last couple of years, he has not been able to play in the playoffs. So I think that Jalen Hurts is going to contribute to the Eagles offense in some run packages, some 2 quarterback sets. He's going to run some RPOs. Imagine Jalen Hurts on that field because he's a dual threat quarterback. He can run the football. He can pass the football. He's a better passer than people give him credit for. Imagine Jalen Reagor, Deshaun Jackson, Marquise Goodwin on the same field with Jalen Hurts. That's a lot of speed that you have to account for. So I think that the Eagles can provide a lot of mismatches in the red zone. That could be something to be desired. So I don't really understand why Eagles fans are pushing back on the Jalen Hurts pick, and I want to know what your thoughts are on the Jalen Hurts pick, and if I'm crazy by being on an island saying, yeah, this was actually a great pick by Howie Roseman. I like the pick.
Man, I wholeheartedly disagree with you. And let me preface this by saying Jalen Hurts is a Philadelphia Eagle now, and therefore he has my full support. However, it just didn't make any sense. I agree with you that the Eagles need, at least given Carson Wentz's history, you have to have a backup quarterback that's capable of coming in and taking the helm should Carson Wentz get injured, but it can't be a rookie. Because rookie quarterbacks tend not to be ready, and I think Jalen Hurts is one of them that, they don't tend to be ready the second that they get into the NFL. So he's a guy that's going to need at least 2 to 3 years of grooming before he's prepared to be the starting quarterback of an NFL team. So now you're telling me that, essentially you spent a second-round pick on a backup quarterback who's not ready to be a backup quarterback right now. So, the whole notion that you could use Jalen Hurts in some of these 2 quarterback sets, I agree with you. I think there's some potential for that to be used. However, I think we overstated a bit when we think, he could be a Taysom Hill-esque player. Taysom Hill is a really, really special athlete. I think that's what a lot of people miss about him. That dude's a 4-4 caliber player. And as good of an athlete as Jalen Hurts is, he's not, the speed, even the threat with the ball that I think Taysom Hill has proven himself to be. Albeit, I think he's a better thrower of the football. I just have my drawbacks on it. I think that was not the pick to go. In the second round especially. If you feel like you need to go get a quarterback, maybe do it in the 3rd or 4th ladder rounds. But Jalen Hurts, you have a quarterback already in the building. He needs help at the receiver position. Granted, you went and got Jalen Reagor, a pick that I wasn't a fan with to begin with. Denzel Mims, who I think was one of the top receivers in the draft. I had Denzel Mims as my 4th rated wide receiver this year. Dude is still on the board at that pick. That's what I was crossing my fingers for. But you end up with Jalen Hurts, and I just don't know how much he actually tangibly helps your team right now. And I think that's what the biggest thing they had to come out of the draft with was help for Carson Wentz, and Jalen Hurts does not give Carson Wentz a ton of help.
Yeah, I kind of totally understand what you're saying right there. I did not really think about the whole, thought process of him being actually ready to go if Carson Wentz gets hurt. I do think that Jalen Hurts is a very good leader. There's nothing wrong with bringing him in your building. I think that he's going to grasp a playbook as well as he can. But at the same time, you want to know when is he going to be ready? Is he going to be ready? The one thing I will say about Jalen Hurts is that he can run around a little bit. So he doesn't need to know the full playbook, I don't think, to make some plays if he's thrusted into potentially starting, because what Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson, these mobile quarterbacks, have been able to do coming into the NFL is, listen, they don't know the whole playbook. They don't know all these NFL schemes. From college to the NFL, it's light and day, okay? That's one thing, okay? Second of
I
all,
have to disagree with you on Deshaun Watson. I will say for in Lamar Jackson's case, it's a bit of a simplified playbook. But for Deshaun Watson, I'd say it's a pretty intricate thing going on there. But I agree with your point. Go on.
yeah. I think Deshaun Watson was the slam dunk best quarterback in that draft. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes has taken over, that throne, but he was the safest pick in my opinion. I don't know what the Chicago Bears were doing, but either way, what a mobile quarterback allows you to do is it allows them. They are able to make plays while still learning the offense. So I think that Jalen Hurts can at least make some plays if need be, if he's thrust into that role. And again, it's just one of those tricky things where Hiram Roseman, I think, really wanted Jalen Hurts. And again, when you're looking at quarterbacks, you just don't know where these guys are gonna go. And Jalen Hurts, compared to Jacob Eason is more of a pocket passer. So there will be some teams that probably would look to use Jalen Hurts' legs more so than Jacob Eason's arm, because Jacob Eason, he's not running off schedule and making plays, through the RPO game, running the football, things like that. But again, I understand the pushback of Eagles fans. I just wholeheartedly disagree. And when Jalen Hurts is making plays out there for you guys, just know I told you so. Now, I want to get to Jalen Reagor.
By all means, excuse me for cutting me off, but by all means, if the dude goes out there and he's a dude and he's a ball player, and I'm not going to be mad at the fact. Like I said, now that he's a Philadelphia Eagles, he has my wholehearted support. I hope the very best for him, but I just have my questions regarding it.
Yeah, now let's get to Jalen Reagor. I was not a huge fan of the Jalen Reagor pick. I believe I gave it a C when I evaluated as far as my video goes of first round grades. And I like Jalen Reagor as a prospect. I do. I think that he has talent. He has really good speed. I know that he had the low 40 time at the combine, and then he kind of said that I ran 4.2. I'm not so sure if he ran 4.2 because you don't go from a 4.47 to a 4.2.
I talked about that on my podcast.
I know.
Ain't no way in hell that dude ran a 4.2. And it's fine. It's fine. I mean, if he's a 4.3 guy or a 4.4 guy, I can't imagine that he's a 4.5 guy. I think that was a bit of a slow time for him.
Yeah.
But ain't no way you drop that much time from your 40 in a matter of weeks. We all got to cap a little bit now and then. It's all right. Can't knock it.
Yeah, but either way, I wholeheartedly agree with you about the Denzel Mims, wide receiver out of Baylor. I think that he was a stud. I believe I had him as my third or fourth wide receiver. I can't remember, but either way, I definitely felt he was worthy of a first round pick. The Jets just stole him. Oh my gosh, Sam Darnold got a great target right there. But yeah, I would have went Denzel Mims or Justin Jefferson. I felt they fit in perfectly with the Eagles' offense, and with aging players like Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson, they can still be productive when healthy. But at some point, I think the Eagles need to find a true number one wide receiver. I just don't think Jalen Reagor will ever be that guy. I was hoping my Packers drafted him because I think that he's a perfect complement to Devontae Adams and Devin Funchess as the third or second option, but as a number one option, I don't know. But I think what Howie Roseman valued was speed. The Eagles at times struggled when Deshaun Jackson went down to vertically threat the opposing defense. They didn't have anyone that really could take the top off a defense. So I understand the pick. I think that he was underutilized at TCU. I think that they used him in the wrong ways. I think that he is more versatile than people give him credit for, but I wouldn't have went that route. Let's talk about some of the other picks. Obviously you drafted 2 Auburn offensive linemen that I kind of like. I think they're underrated, especially where you got them. I like this. The safety you guys drafted out of Clemson is escaping me right now. Forget his name, but I think that's a solid pickup.
Kavon Wallace.
Kavon Wallace, yes. So talk about some of the other draft picks that you think were pretty good. The John Hightower pick, I think that's his name, John Hightower, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that he's a pretty good player. So we'll see if he can contribute. But what are your thoughts on some of the other draft picks not named Jalen Reagor or, Jalen Hurts? And do you think the Eagles are a loser in the draft or a winner? I think you're probably going to go loser. I think they're a loser as well.
Yeah, I definitely think they're a loser. There are some guys who have some potential. You brought up Kavon Wallace. I think he comes from a championship program, and he shows a lot of stuff on the field and on his tape. He actually was trailing Justin Jefferson throughout that when Clemson played LSU in the title game, albeit the team wasn't all that successful. He definitely shows some stuff at the safety position. I think he's going to be a guy that, at the very least, can come in and contribute on special teams this season, and he projects to be a starter in the future. So I think that was a pretty good pickup. The linebacker that we got in the third round, his name eludes me, but he actually, funny story, a buddy of mine runs for the track team in USC. And he actually raced the dude in the 100. So that linebacker has some real world-class track speed. I think he ran like a low 10-second 100-meter dash, which is ridiculous to think about for somebody of that size. So you got some athletes. You got a lot of speed. I think that was really the end-all, be-all for this entire draft from top to bottom, not just at the wide receiver position, but at every single position and every single draft pick, Howie Roseman was clearly targeting gifted athletes, which is I think he wants to build a team that's gifted athletically, and that has its ups and it has its downs, right? Because your team can be gifted athletically, but at the end of the day, being an athlete isn't all there is to being a good football player. And we've seen time and again, there are a lot of really good football players that aren't necessarily the best athletes. And, a lot of people were complaining about that Jalen Hurts pick. And I think we saw in that third day, after we saw the reactions to that Jalen Hurts pick, we saw Howie Roseman and his crew kind of scramble a little bit and say, hey, look, we're trying to get help for Carson Wentz. So they went and got a John Hightower, and they traded for a Marquise Goodwin, and they drafted a Quez Watkins. All three guys are speed guys that could potentially help Carson Wentz, but these are late-round draft picks, and the odds of these guys panning out and being actual impact players is pretty low. So, I think you didn't get the positions of need at the position that you needed to get them at, if that makes sense. Within the draft, and like you said, I wasn't a huge fan of Jalen Reagor. So all in all, I wasn't a huge fan of this draft at all.
Yeah, and a part of the evaluation for me saying the Eagles are losers, I think I have to compare them to their division foes, because I think the Giants had a solid draft, but I'm looking at the Redskins and the Cowboys. I thought they had excellent drafts. What are your thoughts on some of their drafts?
The Cowboys, man, that was what was really, really
good. They were really good.
Imagine, because I was actually on a stream when I was doing this, so there's footage somewhere out there of me just freaking out. Because as an Eagles fan, I'm watching CeeDee Lamb drop 13, 14, 15, 16. I'm like, yo, CeeDee Lamb is dropping, and none of these teams need wide receivers. And then they get to the Cowboys. And I'm like, oh, what if the Cowboys actually just stole CeeDee? Because the Cowboys don't need wide receivers like that. No. But then it was just lurking at the back of my head, what if they just stole CeeDee Lamb because they know Philly needs wide receivers and they know how talented CeeDee Lamb can be. What if they just did it for the heck of it? And then you see Jerry Jones' face plastered on the screen, and he has this conniving grin. He just did something maniacal. He gets off the phone, he's smiling, he's looking at the people around him. He can just hear the evil laughter coming from his eyes. I'm like, oh God, they just did it. And then CeeDee Lamb to the Dallas Cowboys, that crushed me, man. That absolutely crushed me. So when that happened, I just knew the whole draft was going to be an L for the Eagles if that was the tone that we were setting going in. For the life of me, I don't understand why Howie Roseman didn't jump them to go get that dude. If they like CeeDee Lamb and they because throughout the entire process, you heard that the Eagles, they were fans of CeeDee Lamb and they wanted to target CeeDee Lamb. Why stand pat where you were at 21? When you can have a chance to trade up to, it would only taken about a trade up of 5 picks, and if you're telling me you lose a third round in the next draft, do that by all means for a guy like CeeDee Lamb. So for the life of me, I don't understand why they did that and allowed the not only do you not get CeeDee Lamb, but now you have to play him twice a year, in addition to Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup and Ezekiel Elliott and that great offensive line that Dallas has. So yeah, that was very frustrating. Dallas also got the corner out of Alabama, Traylon Diggs. I think he projects to be a pretty decent player. So yeah, it was frustrating to see how good of a draft that Dallas had relative to what the Eagles were doing.
Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juice Alert Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I currently am a freshman there right now. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big-time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juice Alert Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.